The USS Independence fell from the sky in silence, a blackened husk trailing fire through the alien atmosphere. Captain John Reaper Callahan gritted his teeth, gripping the crash harness as the ship lurched violently. The impact came in a bone-rattling wave, throwing him forward as metal screamed and buckled. Then silence, aside from the hiss of cooling steel and the distant rumble of a storm. He exhaled sharply, unbuckling with practiced efficiency. Around him, the remains of his team stirred. Bull Carter was already on his feet, the massive soldier hauling a debris plate off Rookie Walker, who wheezed in pain but gave a thumbs up. Ghost Mason was cursing under his breath, tapping furiously at a wrist-mounted datapad. Doc Hayes did a quick head count, nodding once. 5 of them left. Status? Callahan asked, voice clipped. Independence is done, Ghost growled. No long-range comms, no tracking beacons. We're on our own. Bull checked his rifle. Figures. Varkali hit us hard. Must have wanted to make damn sure we didn't get off this rock alive. Callahan scanned the terrain through the jagged remains of the viewport. Erebus 9, a desolate, windswept planet of rust-colored stone and twisted, spined vegetation. In the distance, storm clouds boiled across the sky, dark and heavy with electric fury. The land itself seemed hostile, jagged cliffs jutting up like broken teeth. The Varkali had left them here for a reason. Gear up, Callahan ordered. We move before dark. They retrieved what they could, rifles, rations, medkits. Ghost salvaged a power cell from the wreckage, muttering about getting something useful out of it. They headed out, navigating the alien terrain with a soldier's efficiency. Every shadow felt like an ambush waiting to happen. Then they found it. The massive creature lay against a rock outcrop, its breathing shallow. It was unlike anything they'd seen, 4-legged, its body armored in a thick, silver-gray hide, for bristling along its back. Its elongated skull bore jagged fangs, and its 2 intelligent eyes flicked toward them as they approached. 3 smaller forms huddled beside it, cubs, whining softly, ribs visible beneath their fur. Zelvar, Ghost whispered. Varkali warbeasts. They breed them for hunting and combat. Bull snorted. Looks like they didn't need this one anymore. Callahan crouched, studying the creature. The mother's wounds were deep claw marks, plasma burns. She'd been abandoned here, left to die with her young. The Varkali didn't tolerate weakness, even in their own creations. Let's keep moving, Bull said. Ain't our problem. Callahan didn't move. The mother Zelvar met his gaze, unflinching despite the pain. She knew what was coming. The choice was obvious. They had no time, no resources to waste. The Varkali had left her here to die, and the smart move was to let nature take its course. And yet, the war beast had fought to stay alive, not for herself, but for her cubs. She had nothing left but them. Callahan had seen that kind of desperation before, in human eyes. In the battlefield wreckage of colonies the Varkali had burned to ash. He exhaled. Document patch her up. Bull stiffened. You serious? She's not a threat. She will be. Maybe. But she's also the only thing on this planet the Varkali feared enough to get rid of. Callahan turned to document. Do what you can. The medic didn't argue. He knelt, unpacking field dressings, working with careful efficiency. The Zelvar flinched once, then went still, watching him work. Rookie, silent until now, crouched beside one of the cubs. It bared tiny fangs, but didn't run. Slowly, he pulled a protein bar from his rations and set it down. After a long pause, the cub sniffed at it, then snatched it up, chewing hungrily. Ghost watched the exchange with something unreadable in his expression. You know the Varkali won't like this. Callahan's jaw tightened. They already left us for dead. Now we give them a reason to regret it. They made camp in the shadow of the outcrop, working in shifts. The planet's nights were worse than its days. The cold cutting through armor, the winds howling like ghosts. The Zelvar mother, Valkyrie, as Rookie had started calling her, didn't sleep. She was too weak to stand, but her ears twitched at every noise, her gaze sweeping the darkness. Her cubs huddled close to her side, but every so often, One would glance toward the humans. They weren't pets. They weren't tame. But something had shifted. The attack came just before dawn. A distant hum. The telltale shimmer of movement. Varkali hunter drones. Ghost was the first to react, diving for cover. Bull was already bringing up his rifle. Rookie scrambling for higher ground. The first shot sizzled through the air, exploding rock into dust. Callahan fired back, dropping one of the drones with a clean shot to its sensor core. Another one dove. But Bull tore through it with a heavy burst, sending debris scattering across the ground. Then the mother moved. Despite her injuries, Valkyrie lunged, claws ripping through the last drone in a spray of sparks. She hit the ground hard, panting, but the last enemy was down. Callahan lowered his rifle. The battlefield went silent. The Varkali hadn't expected them to survive the crash. They sure as hell wouldn't expect them to ally with one of their own discarded weapons. Well, Ghost muttered, wiping dust from his visor. Guess we're not alone after all. Callahan met Valkyrie's gaze once more. There was no fear in it now, just understanding. The fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The storm rolled in fast, thick clouds tumbling across the sky, staining the horizon in bruised shades of violet and black. Lightning forked through the heavens, illuminating the craggy landscape in brief, electric flashes. Callahan crouched behind an outcrop of jagged stone, watching the distant shapes move through the rain. Varkali scouts. The enemy hadn't given up. If anything, they were circling back, methodical, hunting. Ghost adjusted his visor, whispering into the comm movement. South Ridge. 2 squads. Bull chambered a round into his rifle. They know we're still breathing. Callahan wiped the rain from his face, mind working. The crash site was compromised. The Varkali would keep sweeping until they found proof of death. Staying here meant slow attrition, no supplies, no extraction, and dwindling ammunition. They needed to move now. Rookie adjusted his grip on his sidearm. Where to, boss? Before Callahan could answer, Valkyrie growled. Low, warning. The massive warbeast stood at the edge of the outcrop, ears pinned back, her golden eyes fixed on something beyond the storm. Her cubs bristled beside her, hackles raised. Then Callahan saw it, a Varkali dropship. It had settled into a ravine just beyond the ridge, half hidden by the rock formations. The sleek, chitinous design of its hull gleamed under the rain, its bay doors still open. A forward operations craft, lightly defended, but equipped with long-range comms and, more importantly, a working NAV system. Ghost caught his look. That thing got a functional beacon. If it does, Callahan said, we turn it into a lifeline. Bull exhaled sharply. And if it doesn't? Callahan checked his rifle. Then we steal it anyway. The approach was slow, methodical. Rain masked their movements. But the Varkali weren't careless. 2 guards patrolled the bay doors, plasma rifles slung at the ready. A third stood atop the hull, scanning the perimeter with an optical visor. Inside, Callahan counted at least 4 more shapes moving through the cockpit and supply area. Not a kill squad, but enough to turn a mistake into a massacre. Ghost marked targets with a flick of his fingers. 2 for Bull and Rookie, 1 for himself. Callahan would handle the breach. The signal was silent, a clenched fist. Shots whispered through the rain. The sentries dropped before they registered the attack. The one atop the hull toppled forward, vanishing into the darkness below. Callahan sprinted for the opening, rifle raised. He cleared the threshold in a breath, sighting the nearest Varkali, just as the alien turned. 2 rounds to center mass, a third to drop him. Bull was next through, sweeping left. Rookie followed, covering the rear. Ghost moved straight for the cockpit, sliding into the control interface. A screeching alarm split the air. Callahan cursed. One of the Varkali had triggered a proximity alert before going down. Speed it up, Ghost. I'm working. The tech's fingers flew across alien glyphs, bypassing firewalls, overriding command protocols. This isn't a civilian system. It's got encrypted failsafes. Valkyrie's roar split the air. The remaining Varkali poured in from the storm, weapons hot. Plasma fire ripped through the bay, searing across metal and stone. Bull dove behind a supply crate, returning fire in heavy bursts. Rookie took a knee, dropping an enemy before he could get a shot off. Callahan turned just as a Varkali warrior lunged. The alien's strength was monstrous. It slammed into him, knocking his rifle wide. They hit the ground hard, rolling, the Varkali's clawed gauntlet flashing toward his throat. Callahan twisted, barely avoiding the strike. His knife was already in his hand. One strike. Up, under the jaw. The Varkali convulsed. Black ichor spilled onto Callahan's armor as the body sagged lifeless. He shoved the corpse aside, gasping for breath. Done. Ghost shouted. We got an NAV system. Callahan forced himself up. Then let's fly. The team pushed forward, clearing the last of the resistance. Rookie took a grazing shot to the shoulder, but stayed on his feet. Valkyrie tore into a straggler, sending the last enemy screaming into the storm. Ghost yanked the ship's controls, firing the engines to life. Hull integrity shaky, but we can get airborne. Callahan nodded. Get us out of here. The stolen craft lifted off, engines roaring against the storm. Rain blurred the viewport as the team secured themselves. Below, the Varkali ground forces scrambled, but it was too late. As they ascended, Ghost locked onto a distant signature. A signal. He turned to Callahan, a grin forming. Command base. We know where they are. Callahan looked to Valkyrie. The war beast met his gaze. Her cubs gathered at her sides. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The enemy fleet was burning, but Callahan wasn't done yet. The stolen Varkali command cruiser trembled under his boots, its system struggling against the damage they had inflicted to take it. Smoke clung to the air, the acrid stench of scorched metal and ozone filling his lungs. The bridge was his now. The alien bodies sprawled across the floor, proof of human defiance. Ghost's fingers flew over the controls, overriding security protocols, locking down enemy reinforcements. Bull stood near the shattered viewport, watching as the last remnants of the Varkali fleet fled in disarray. Rookie leaned against a console, breathing heavily, the blood loss catching up to him. We should leave, Ghost said, voice taut. Their long-range assets are going to come looking. Callahan didn't move. His gaze was fixed on the forward display, where the wreckage of the stronghold still smoldered on the surface below. Valkyrie was down there. Gone. Bull stepped closer, lowering his voice. She made her choice. Callahan closed his eyes, jaw tight. They all had. And now it was up to him to make sure it wasn't for nothing. He turned back to Ghost. Can you patch into their comms? Ghost frowned but nodded. Yeah. Why? Callahan's voice was steady. Because we're sending a message. It took Ghost less than a minute to break through the remaining interference. The Varkali's encrypted channels flared to life, alien voices crackling with panic and rage. The death of their war master had shattered their chain of command. Their empire was bleeding. Callahan leaned in, activating the broadcast. This is Major Callahan of the United States Marine Corps, he said, voice calm and unshakable. Your fleet is destroyed. Your stronghold is gone. Your war master is dead. Silence. Then a guttural snarl, some Varkali warlord clawing for control. You think this battle decides the war, human? We will return. We will hunt your kind across the stars. Callahan's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. You already did. And we survived. He leaned forward. Let them hear the certainty in his voice. We adapted. We overcame. That's what we do. Another voice, this one less certain. You cannot kill us all. No, Callahan admitted. But we don't have to. We just have to make sure that every time you come for us, you bleed. More than we do. More than you can afford. The channel crackled, the weight of his words sinking in. Callahan exhaled, feeling the exhaustion finally settle in his bones. He killed the transmission. Ghost sat back, rubbing his temples. Well, that should keep him up at night. Rookie chuckled weakly. Hell, it's keeping me up. Bull cracked his knuckles, watching the debris field drift by. They won't forget today. Callahan nodded. Good. Ghost tapped at the controls. I've set a course for an uncharted sector. We'll lay low, make repairs, figure out our next move. He hesitated, then glanced at Callahan. Unless you've got other ideas. Callahan looked out at the stars, at the war-torn remnants of a battle that had changed everything. He thought of Valkyrie, of the silent promise she had left behind. Yeah, he murmured. I've got a few. And as the stolen warship faded into the void, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had just begun to fight.